wonderful people. Welcome back to ERD Stitches YouTube channel. So today in our tutorial we're going to learn how to make a basic body. So as you can see on this my pattern paper, I have two basic blocks here already. So I have this for the front block and this is for the back block, and I've ruled out some lines which I'm going to explain. So what I did, and if you look at these two blocks, you will see that one of the block is longer than the other. The one longer is the block for the front, while this is for the back. So if the front block is always longer than the front. So as for my own, the difference is 2 inches. So if you want to know the difference between your front block and your back block, what you need to do is at your half length, you tie a rope on it, measure your front block from your shoulder to your half length for the front, and also measure the same for the back. Whatever that is the difference, that is what you will take as your shoulder box. We will shoulder that. When we get to that, I will lay more emphasis on that. Okay, now let's get started. Okay, my half length, the half length I'm working with for the front block is 18 inches. This is my 18 inches for the half length. So what I did is that I got my shoulder to my bust point is 11 inches. Then shoulder to my under bust is 15 inches. Then my shoulder to my half length is 18 inches. So now I got also shoulder to my chest line is 10 inches. That's including the 1 inch for the slope. So now this is my 1 inch for the slope here. So from this point now I have to measure my armhole line, which is 9 inches here. So this line now is my chest line, this is my bust line, this is my under bust line, and this is my waistline. So now we are going to work on the front block first before we move to the back block. Now that we have gotten all this, the next thing I'm going to input here now is my neck width. The neck width I'm working with is 3 inches, which is a kind of standard. But if you're a small size, you can go with 2.5. If you're a plus size, you can go with 3.5 to 4 inches. So from this point, I'm going to connect the shoulder slope. So this is it. Now, okay, the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to get my neck depth, the depth I need for my neck. So I'm going to use 3.5 inches for the neck depth. So this is my 3.5 inches here, and also here I'm taking my 3.5 inches here. So I'm connecting the points together. So if you want it to block neckline, you can leave it this way. If you want a round neck, you give it whatever neck you want to give it. You can now give it the neck you want. So I think I'm going with a round neck for this. So I'm going to curve it this way. So this is the neck I'm going with. So now that I've gotten my shoulder slope and my neck width and depth, the next thing I'm going to take now is my bust span measurement. And the bust span measurement I'm working with, that is the nipple to nipple, the distance from one nipple to the other. So the bust span measurement I'm using for this tutorial is 9 inches. So when I divide the 9 inches by 2, it gives me 4.5 inches. So on this my waistline here, I'm going to mark my 4.5 inches on my waistline here, and also on my bust line 4.5 inches. So now I'm going to connect them together, the 2 points together. So this is my bust span line now. Okay, this is the center front. You know that you always put it on fold when you are cutting your clothes. So now that I've gotten my bust span line, I'm going to input my dart. So the dart I'm working with for this tutorial is I'm taking 1 inch on both sides on my half length, 1 inch. So this 1 inch, I'm going to connect it to this point now. Okay, this is our dart. Now this is our dart. So now I'm going to work on the armhole. So for this front armhole now, I have 9 inches here for my armhole. Then I'm going to get the mid of the 9 inches, which is 4.5. That is here. At this mid here now, I'm going in by 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch. That's this point. So now I will curve this to this point and also curve this as my armhole curve now. So I'm going to use my curve here or my hip curve to achieve that. You have to, if you don't know how to use this, please, you can use your freehand method to do it. You make sure that you arrange it well before you curve. You have to connect all the points involved before you curve. So I'm curving from here this way now to this side. So this is it now. This is it. So now to form my princess dart now is I have to, from this point now, from this my slope now, I have to come down with 3 inches. I'm coming down with 3 inches from my shoulder slope point now to get where then I will connect from this my bust point here now, my bust point line here. I have to go up by 1 inch, and that 1 inch, if you look at it, that 1 inch is this my chest line. If I go up by 1 inch, is this my chest line point now. So I have to connect from this point to this, then I will blend it to my dart. So now I'm connecting from this my chest line to my 3 inches point at the armhole. So now I have to blend it here to my dart so that everything will be same. So this is my princess dart now. Okay, now I'm going to input my body measurement. I will start from my chest line. So I'm going to input my bust, the quarter of my bust circumference on both my chest line and my bust line now. So the bust circumference I'm working with is 42 inches. When I divide it by 4, I will get 10.5 inches. So I'm going to input my 10.5 inches on both my bust line point and chest line. So I will also input my 10.5 inches here also. So now on my waist line, that is here, I'm going to first the waist circumference I'm working with is 38 inches. When I divide it with 4, it will give me 9.5 inches. So I have to measure what I have from this dart leg to this my center back here now. So when I measure what I have here, it's giving me 3.5 inches. Remember our bust span was 4.5, and I've collected half inch for that, so the remaining 3.5 inches. So 3.5 inches, I will fold the 3.5 inches this way. I hope you are seeing what I just did there. Then I will now continue with my measurement from the other dart leg to get my 9.5 inches point. My 9.5 inches point, that is here. So I'm adding 1 inch seam allowance, that is here. So I have to connect this to my chest line now. So this from here to this side is my basic body measurement, while here this place I'm shedding away is my seam allowance, and this is my dart intake that will be cut off, and this is my dart intake that will be cut off. So now we are done with the front pattern. So the next thing we are going to do now is we are going to the back pattern to work on the back pattern. Okay, this is our back basic block now. So what I have here, I just have from my shoulder to my chest line, which is where my armhole stopped. That's 10 inches inclusive the slope that will come down here. So then I now have my back half length, which is 16 inches. Remember, the front is 18 inches and the back is 16 inches. So now that I've gotten this, what I need to do now is to get my shoulder slope of 1 inch, which is this point here, my shoulder slope. Then the neck width, remember the front I used 3.5 as my neck width. I'm still going to maintain the 3.5 here as my neck width. Then the neck depth I'm working with for the back is 1 inch. So I'm using 1 inch for the back here for my neck depth. So I have to connect it together this way. Then I will use my ruler my curve ruler to connect it to my center back here. Okay, I've connected that, so I need to change my marker. The red marker is so faint, I don't like what it's giving me. So I have to connect from the neck width to my slope like this way. So now that we have gotten that, the next thing we are going to do is to get the mid of this my armhole. So remember, the armhole I'm working with is 9 inches. I hope we are seeing it. 9 inches. This is 9 inches. So the mid should be 4.5. So on this 4.5 point, I have to go in by 0.5 inch here. Then I will from here curve my armhole and also connect this way, like we did in the front for the front armhole. So like I said, you have to make sure you connect all the points before you curve. You may have to make sure that you connect to all the points before you curve. So this is it. This is what we need to do now. So now that we have gotten this, so the next thing now that I have to do is to get my nipple to nipple, which is 4 inches. So for 4.5 inches, remember it was 9 inches. So this is the 4.5 inches. So I have to connect it to my chest line. There's something I need you to get here. Also input the 4.5 inches on the chest line. Then I have to connect it together this way. So if you look at these two basic bodies closely, you will see that my nipple to nipple of my front basic stopped at the bust point line, while that of my back is at the chest line. That is where my armhole stopped. Take note of that. Okay, now back to our tutorial for the back basic. So now I'm taking 0.5 inch on both sides of the dart for my dart. So I'm taking 0.5 inch from the both sides for my dart, and I'm connecting it to my chest line now. So I'll connect it this way, and also I will also connect this. So this is our dart. Now we are taking our body measurements. Now at this chest line, I'm going to input my bust, quarter of my round bust measurement, and my round bust measurement circumference is 42 inches. The quarter is 10.5 inches. So from this point, I'm going to take 10.5 inches here, and I'm putting 1.5 inch dart, which is this point. So on this my waistline, the waist circumference I'm working with is 38 inches, and 38 divided by 4 will give me 9.5 inches. So I will get what I have here remaining. I have 4 inches remaining. I'll fold my tape on the 4 inches, and from this dart leg I will continue my measurement to get my 9.5 inches, which is here, and I will also input my seam allowance of 1 inch or 1.5 inches. Let me go with 1.5 inches, so which is this point. So now I'm going to connect the points together. So I'm connecting here. This is the correct my basic body measurement, and this is my seam allowance. So this is my seam allowance. This shaded place is my seam allowance, and this is my basic body. If you don't want to use princess dart or shoulder dart, if you are using shoulder dart, for example, for this back, what you need to do is you get the meat of what you have here on your shoulder. I have 5 inches on my shoulder here, so the meat should be 2.5 inches here. So what I will do is just to connect it with a straight line this way. For if you are using a shoulder dart, this is how to get your shoulder dart. So here I have shown you how to get the princess dart here, and here I showed you how to get the. Okay, the next thing we are going to do now is to input our bust dart, so that the front pattern will align with this back pattern. So what I'm going to do now is, at this my bust point line now, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. Remember, the difference between the front and the back pattern is 2 inches, and that is the quantity of that I'm going to remove from my bust dart on my bust dart. So I'm taking 2 inches now for my bust dart. So I'm going to connect this now to my bust point line. So I'll connect it to my bust point line. This way. So this bust dart is going to be cut off. I'm cutting this off now. So, but before I cut this off, I have to cut out my basic body so that we can be able to cut this off. Now, I will separate this pattern from this pattern, then we'll now do the cutting. Okay, now this is what we have now. This is the front pattern. So we are going to cut out this down, but before we cut it out, we have to blend here, because by the time you fold this dart this way to meet this our chest line here, you will see that it will not tally again. Everything will shift. So we have to correspond that difference here before we continue. Before we continue, we have to align everything together. So now I've aligned it. Now that I've aligned it, I can now cut it out. So I'm going to cut it out from here this way. So now that I've cut it, By the time you open it, you see what we have here now. If you had not folded it that way, you would have been shorting with this excess here. So make sure you do it whenever you are drafting yours. So now that we have done it, so the next thing that we do now is to cut the armhole. Okay, now to the back pattern, we have to input our zip allowance now. But before we do that, we have to eliminate that bulge that always shows at the center back when we are making our clothes. So I have to, at this my waistline now, I have to come in by 1 inch. I'm taking 1 inch. If you're a small size, you can go with half an inch, but it's the plus size, so I'm taking 1 inch. This 1 inch, I'll connect it to my chest line now. Remember, with this 1 inch we have taken here now, this our back pattern have reduced with 1 inch, so we are going to add it up on this our allowance side now. The 1 inch that we are removed here, we are going to add it up on this our allowance side here. I will add 1 inch here now, then I will connect it this way from this chest point to the 1 inch. I hope you are following me. So we have the one we removed here, we have added it up here. So now back to our zipper allowance. I'm using a zipper allowance of 2 inches. So I'm starting, my measurement will start from this point, from this 1 inch here. Now this is where I will start. I'm using 2 inches for my zipper allowance. So this is my 2 inches point. So on this my chest line, I'm taking 2 inches also. On my neckline, I'm taking 2 inches also. So now I'm going to connect it. It will be a little bit, if you have a little bit curve, it will not be straight. Our zip allowance will not be straight again because of that 1 inch. So here now, I'm going to connect it this way. Like I said, it's going to have a little bit of curvedness here. Have you seen the way it's looking? Then I will connect the two lines together. So I will also connect the neckline. This is our zipper allowance. Now you can see the curvedness here. You see it? So now we are done with the back pattern. So we are going to start cutting it out now. We are cutting our back pattern now. You are following it. Please, if you are a new viewer, please subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to share the video. If you are an old subscriber, thank you for subscribing. So cutting through from this additional 1 inch here now to my chest line, then I'll continue with my armhole. So sorry about that. So this is my back basic body. Now this that I'm not going to cut it, I'm sewing it to this point. I just illustrated this for you. I'm not using this. I'm just using just this. I'll just sew it to this chest line. So this is how our back pattern what it look like, and I'm going to cut 2 of these when I'm cutting my fabrics. So please If you have not subscribed to my channel, subscribe, comment, like and share to others to benefit from this tutorial. Thank you for staying to the end of this tutorial. See you in the next one. God bless you. Bye.